Did you know that over 85% of truck drivers have experienced somebody withholding their pay illegally? In a recent poll that I've conducted with over 3,000 truck drivers, here's what they had to say about what excuses the company gave them for withholding their pay. 37% of the truck drivers that took part in this poll said that they were blamed for breakdowns that just weren't their fault, but somehow the company spun it around and said that the driver's to blame because of driver negligence, or this and that broke, or something happened with the truck because of the driver, therefore trying to justify why they deducted it from their pay. 30% of the companies made up a story about damaged equipment, whether it's a truck, trailer, flatbed, reefer, where they say that the damage that was caused on the equipment was because of the driver and therefore deducting it from usually their last pay. Now, 17% of the truck drivers have experienced a company that had closed down and therefore they didn't get paid. 11% said that they did not give enough notice, so their pay was withheld because supposedly they didn't give enough notice. A lot of companies, what they do is in their terms and conditions, they say that the driver is responsible to give 30 or 45-day notice. I want you guys all to know that those rules technically goes against the Labor Code of Canada, and I'm sure there's something in the US that says that you do not have to give 30 or 45-day notice, and nowhere does it say that any company is allowed to withhold any payments from any driver. Now, 6% of them were blamed on the outstanding tickets and fines. So a company blames the tickets and fines as a justification of why they withheld the driver's pay. Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about some of the comments. We're going to talk about what you guys out there can legally do when somebody's trying to withhold your pay. Now, in a secondary poll that I conducted, what do truck drivers do in this situation? So how do truck drivers respond to when a company is withholding their pay? Can you believe that 45% of the truck drivers contact the labor board? Well, that's a great way to start, is to file a complaint in the labor board. Whether you're in Canada, in the US, you really need to be filing a complaint with the labor board. The next thing, 22% said that they just leave it alone, let the company choke on it, I'm moving forward. 22% of the truck drivers just prefer not to deal with it. Why? Because the added stress, anxiety, and life enough as it is hard, and to go after somebody that's trying to withhold $1,500 or $2,000, a lot of drivers are like, you know what, keep it, choke on it, I'm moving forward, I found myself a better job, and I will never make sure that not only I will never, but also I'll make sure that people know that this is a horrible company to work for. Now, 15% of truck drivers say that they file a complaint with the FMCSA, which is also a really good thing to do. 10% say that they actually take the company to court. Now, in some of the comments, which I found really, really interesting, the 10% that said I take them to court, they really don't care what the amount is. It's a principle thing that you're not allowed to withhold money from a truck driver, and therefore they will do whatever that needs to be done in order to get that money back. They don't care if they come out at a loss. The legal fees will definitely come out more than what the amount owing is, but they just want to teach that company a lesson that they cannot get away with what they're deducting. And 8% said that they put a Google review and let other drivers know. So after conducting both of these polls, I really got to understand a lot of the truck drivers through the comments of both these polls on what is best practice or what should they be doing. Hey, do you have an app, product, device, or technology that can benefit our North American truck drivers? Well, guess what? You can become a featured sponsor in one of our next videos. With a vast community of over 450,000 truck drivers across all our platforms and an impressive 9 million monthly views, I can definitely bring your product out to the spotlight. You want to be a part of our community? Join all these companies that have already partnered with us. Interested? Well, email me at sponsorships@ettransport.ca. And now, back to that video. Number one, this channel is all about uniting drivers. And if I'm not here to bash anybody, but if you will read some of the comments that people left about certain companies in certain locations, this is already creating awareness out there on who to work for and who not to work for. But definitely first thing that you want to do, especially when somebody withholds your pay unlawfully, is number one, before you do anything else, draft up a Google review against the company explaining the situation on what happened and why they deducted. I'm not saying that truck drivers are always 100% right. I'm not saying that, the carriers, a lot of the times, from what I hear, a lot of the times those carriers, they do certain things on purpose to withhold a driver's pay. Now, whether they make up a story about driver negligence, about, repairs and maintenance, or not giving enough notice, I hate hearing the story about not giving enough notice. I think that's a crock of shit. I truly believe that a lot of the carriers do withhold the driver's pay, especially when a driver tries to give his 2-week notice, or when a driver's trying to quit the company, all of a sudden they come up with all these charges. Miraculously, they just come up and charge the driver, for stuff that should have never been charged back to the driver. Second thing that I highly recommend to do is to file a complaint with the FMCSA, letting them know. I'm sure, the FMCSA receives a lot of complaints, but once they see multiple complaints against a company, I'm sure they're going to take action against them. Like, for example, if John said that this company doesn't pay me, and then Stuart says that the company also doesn't pay me, and then Mike and Gary also say the exact same thing, well, now there's a case to be made because there's more than one driver saying the same thing. Now it's time to, maybe we should start investigating against this company. So definitely write a complaint to the FMCSA, and you'll also see in the comments that people make comments about certain companies. It's not just one comment. It's one person says, I had this experience with that company, and then 3 or 4 more guys will tag along and say, wow, I had the exact same experience with that same company. The third thing that I would say to do is definitely contact the labor board and let them know what's happening. Now, the tricky part is if you are on 1099 or if you're a salaried employee, and the same thing here in Canada, if you're working on this Driver Inc. model or if you're on payroll. Well, if you're working on the 1099 or the Driver Inc. model, then you are kind of giving up your rights to a salaried employee. Okay, so there's a lot of rights that come with being a salaried employee. A lot of companies prefer to hire drivers under Driver Inc. A lot of drivers prefer to work for companies under the Driver Inc. model. There's a whole video that I did about this, about the Driver Inc. and the scam that's going on. We're not going to get into that right now, but I definitely think that you need to file a complaint with the labor board. 100% file a complaint with the labor board, and the same thing happens just like the FMCSA. When they see multiple complaints against the same company, they're definitely going to take action or do something about it, and you have a lot more chances of taking your money when you file a complaint against the labor board. Now, for those drivers that are the 22% of drivers that basically say, let them choke on it, I'm moving on to a better place. I honestly, to tell you the truth, if I was in that situation, and I have been in that situation where somebody owed me, X amount of dollars, it wasn't a large sum. I would say probably maybe $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a couple of occasions. And really, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna fight with them? Yes, I'll leave a Google review. Yes, I will, I'll try to do everything that I can to try to withdraw my money. But at the end of the day, at some point, you're like, you know what, this is causing you too much stress, too much anxiety. Do you really want to invest so much time in it? You're also very aggravated, when I deal with certain files that people owe me money and I can't take it out, or I'm fighting with somebody over the phone. It's like, is it really worth that stress, that anxiety? The answer to that question is actually it's not worth for over $2,000 or $3,000, for me at least. But we all make our own decisions. Obviously, $2,000, $3,000 can make a world of a difference for some people, but the amount of stress and anxiety that comes with it is just not worth it for me. I'd rather write it off as bad debt and move on to my next project. Usually in those situations, on your next project, you usually make times 1.5, where somehow miraculously somebody compensates you just for moving on and letting go. And it has happened to me, and hopefully maybe you guys can share some of your stories that has happened to you. And then sharing your comments will help other drivers understand, and that's why I want to read a few of them. This one comment that I got: I called the labor board in North Carolina when this happened to me. I needed to hire a lawyer. The lawyer fee would have been about $3,000 to sue for $1,500. So basically the lawyer fees would have outweighed the fee that the person owed him. So he said, you know what, I just moved on. Another comment: I let them choke on it. You leave a company paying $60K a year max for a company paying $85 or $90K is the biggest flex. As a matter of fact, you personally mail them the last pay stub of the year from the new company. I love this comment because it kind of goes, rub it in their face that not only did you move on, but you moved on to a much better company. Now, I would go one step further. I would write that Google review on that company that withheld their pay for sure, 100%. I really want to create awareness out there, especially on companies that are not paying their bills. Next comment: the last time a company tried me on my $2,500 escrow balance, they ended up giving me the money a lot sooner than they thought because they were trying to have me run on illegal logbooks after I threatened to contact the FMCSA. So for those of you that have the evidence against your companies, this is powerful tools. If a company ever makes you do something illegal or run defective equipment, and you have text messages of that, or if you have dispatches of that, then you can kind of withhold that against the company and threaten them that you're going to contact FMCSA and let them know that they run double logbooks or ghost drivers. We've done skits on this, and apparently it happens a lot out there and it's very frequent. So this driver basically took the "I'm going to threaten you," and the threat worked and he got paid. Now the next thing that I would recommend, I mean, if somebody is withholding, especially owner operators, sometimes owner operators can get into a jam where somebody owes them $10,000, $12,000, $8,000. Now you're not just going to walk away from that. So what you probably will end up doing is retaining a paralegal. That's what I would recommend doing, is you retain a paralegal, somebody that doesn't cost as much as a lawyer, $500-$600 an hour. But if you retain the paralegal and you go through the small claims court option, you might be successful in getting back your money. I would definitely try it to go through the paralegal option, just so you can submit letters to the company that owes you the money and actually invite them to a small claims court, usually through a settlement conference. You might be able to settle with them. So if that was to happen to me today for a little bit of a larger sum, probably over $3,000 or $4,000, then I would recommend that you would retain the counsel or you retain a paralegal, go through the small claims court wherever you're located, whether in Canada or the US, and that can help you save a lot of money on legal fees. So hopefully you learned something from this video. Again, I am amazed by how many people are in the exact same situation. We really need to be talking more about this and sharing our comments on how you deal with these situations. Now, if I missed something, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. I'm Ronen, R-O-N-E-N, and I'll catch you in my next video.